The Blue Jewel. Chapter 6. Part 2. Arian traveled with Vanus in one of the wagons at the back of the caravan, where the journey was smoother and more bearable. The caravan kicked up a great deal of dust. They advanced slowly but at a steady pace, and after 2 days the sea was no longer present on the horizon. They left it to the north. It took the young woman a while to get used to the absence of the sea again. Arian had grown up with him always by his side, but the thought of seeing his brother again made up for the monotony of this journey. The days passed in a similar way, getting up at dawn and then setting off. In the middle of the afternoon they would stop for the horses and mules to rest and eat something. After this short rest they again moved forward until the sun went down. They stopped and set up camp, after which they had dinner, and immediately went to bed, since they had to get up early the next day. The mood in the caravan, however, was relaxed, although as the trip progressed there began to be some tension in the atmosphere. Arian had a sneaking suspicion that everyone in the caravan was waiting for something to happen, and although no one was talking about it, it was more than obvious to Arian. Nor did the scenery make the journey more pleasant. To his left was the huge mountain range of the Dragon's Ridge with its huge black mountains, with its peaks covered with eternal snows, below which was the kingdom of the dwarves. The mountains seemed to have no end and disappeared into the horizon. To his right was a vast expanse, flat and empty to infinity, the so-called Deadlands, a desert where only death and despair could fit. That monotonous sight made the journey that much harder. Days passed, and on the horizon to his right began to be seen some elevations in the desert. Tahir, the veteran soldier driving his wagon, told him that it was the Brown Hills. Legend had it that those hills were once a temple of the elves. The elves came to inhabit these lands, and the path they now followed was the ancient southern road that linked the northern kingdom with the southern kingdom, and they were connected through the great bridge of Tame. Arian thought again of the elves, of the magical kingdom of the elves that was located in the north of Caesarea, and he felt a pain in his chest, a pain he never thought he would have, a pain produced by his love for that small fishing village. The next day they received word that the king seemed somewhat indisposed by the journey, so Vanus left his company in the wagon to see what was causing his majesty uneasiness. Arian was left alone with the driver of the wagon, who took the last place in the caravan to take the trip more calmly. The only company she had was Agnarok, who sometimes climbed up next to her to talk to her for a while. Gosberg was very busy. He had to arrange the safety of the trip, something complicated by the large number of wagons. They arrived at a crucial point in the journey, the lower pass, where the Brown Hills and the Dragon's Ridge came almost to join at that point. Only a small plain of 100 meters separated the two geographical features. As the caravan passed between the two elevations, the young woman came up with a slightly malicious idea. "It's a perfect place for an ambush," Arian smiled. Lately she was becoming somewhat paranoid. But nothing could be further from the truth. There was a great tension in the atmosphere. I didn't know when, but soon something would happen. Then she heard a noise. It was like a dry whistle that pierced the air, and then an impact, then a cry of pain, came from a soldier who was escorting the caravan a few meters in front of her. Immediately the wagon stopped and silence reigned in the place. Another soldier approached the wounded man and saw that it was indeed an arrow. There was no time for more. From both sides of the road, attackers came out brandishing their swords and shooting arrows at the wagons. They were bandits. The soldiers who guarded the caravan came out to meet them. The wagons tried to make a circle to defend themselves from the attack. But given the sheer number of wagons and their heavy load, making such a move quickly was tricky. Arian's wagon, being the last one, was in a very complicated situation. The assailants were quickly approaching them. She saw them brandishing their weapons and with their clothes completely white, fruit of the clay dust of the desert. The driver tried to get off the road looking for the slopes of the mountains to free himself from the harassment. Unfortunately, an arrow mortally wounded him in the neck. The wagon was left without a driver and caused the horses to lose control. The vehicle turned completely and advanced with great speed towards the attackers dressing them. The bandits had to jump to avoid being run over. The wagon was out of control. It was heading quickly towards the Brown Hills. Arian could not stop it although he got hold of the bridle, but the horses were rearing. Taming them was impossible. The pack animals turned to avoid a large stone. The wagon skidded, lost stability and ended up overturning, turning twice over. Arian was ejected, crashing to the ground and knocking herself unconscious. Gosberg and Agnarok carried out the orders received by Debok as soon as they arrived in Asimia. The plan was simple: escort the caravan and wait for the attack at the lower pass. The company had spies who confirmed that attack with complete certainty. They spoke to His Majesty and he agreed to carry out the mercenaries' reckless plan. To make the southern road a safe route he had to risk his life. Agnarok was worried that Arian would take the last places in the caravan, but despite his attempts, he could do nothing. The driver of that wagon insisted on being one of the last, which gave him headaches. He spoke to Gosberg about the matter, but the order was clear: no one was to know anything about the plan drawn up by Debok. There were many spies from Ulbianor and any mistake could cause the operation to fail, and a lot of gold and his reputation were at stake. So when the attack began, everything was chaos. The truth is that even if we expected things did not go as they had predicted, neither the wagons reacted quickly, nor did the king's soldiers act forcefully. They soon found themselves under attack by bandits who were too organized and trained to be mere fortune seekers. The half-orc was deep in the fight, but he could see Arian's wagon lose control and venture into the Brown Hills. Their intention was to follow him, but then the sign appeared that they were waiting in the sky. A large ball of fire streaked through the air, hitting the front of the bandits. At the signal, the expected reinforcements arrived. More than 200 mercenaries from the Blue Phoenix Company came to his aid, all of their members available.